I get everybody just have a seat. We'll go ahead and get the August 27, 2026 monthly meeting of the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission underway. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start out with approval of the agenda. I need a motion.
Make a motion to move the print of the agenda as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? So moved. We'll move into our length of service awards. Lee Neri, did I say that correct? Front and center, my friend, front and center. Spotlight is on you.
Yep.
All right. Lee Neri began his employment with the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission in August 2021 as a wastewater utilities maintenance specialist. Since joining METCOM, Lee has continued to grow professionally and take on new responsibilities. In April 2022, he was promoted to vac tour operator, and in January 2023, he advanced to I&I technician. In May 2025, Lee was promoted to an unlicensed water operator, and after taking and passing the Maryland water exam on June 5th, 2026, he is now a licensed water operator. Regardless of the position held, Lee has always been a dependable and respected coworker and employee. He is someone you can count on and is always willing to lend a hand to anyone who needs it. His strong work ethic, mechanical knowledge, and willingness to help others have made him a valuable member of the METCOM team. When Lee isn't at work, he enjoys spending time with his friends and family, especially his sister Gina and his girlfriend Casey. In his free time, you can usually find him applying his mechanical expertise to one of his many projects or helping a friend with theirs. On those special occasions when he gets away from the garage and his projects, you'll likely find Lee out in the woods with his side-by-side buddies doing a little terrain reading. Please join me in congratulating Lee on achieving 5 years of service with METCOM. His dependability, hard work, and willingness to help others are greatly appreciated. We look forward to his many more years of service and success.
I know Lee's got some friends, so come on up here and stand with the man and get some pictures, please. Oh my God, that's his best friend, needs to be up there for sure. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, moving right along, we got a proclamation for National Wellness Month.
Yeah, I've been voluntold for that one. All right. Whereas National Wellness Month, observed each August, encourages individuals and organizations to prioritize physical, mental, and emotional well-being through healthy habits, preventative care, stress management, and work-life balance. And whereas the employees of the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission are dedicated to providing safe, reliable, and essential water and wastewater services that protect public health and are critical for the well-being of our community. And whereas by promoting wellness in the workplace, we can contribute to a healthier, safer, and more engaged workforce, enhance employee morale, reduce workplace injuries, and strengthen METCOM's ability to provide exceptional service to our customers. And whereas the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission recognizes that the wellness of its employees is fundamental to organizational excellence and is committed to fostering a workplace culture that supports healthy lifestyles, resilience, and overall well-being. And whereas we urge employees to participate in wellness activities, seek preventive health care, engage in physical activity, maintain healthy nutrition, prioritize mental health, and support one another in achieving personal wellness goals. Now, therefore, we, the Commissioners of the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission, hereby recognize August as National Wellness Month and encourages all employees to embrace healthy choices, participate in wellness initiatives, and continue fostering a culture of safety, health, and well-being both in the workplace and throughout the community. The Commission further reaffirms its commitment to supporting programs and initiatives that promote employee wellness, recognizing that a healthy workforce is essential to delivering high-quality, dependable service to customers and the community we proudly serve. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving along, we'll approve the meeting minutes from the July 23rd, 2026. Do we have any amendments that have been made to it? So if I get a motion to approve the minutes as presented,
I move to approve the July 23rd, 2026 regular session meeting minutes as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? So moved. Everybody get a chance to look at the consent agenda? You need a minute? Everybody's looked at it and gone over it. I need a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, a move to accept the consent agenda as presented and hereby approve all matters contained on the consent agenda.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? So moved. We will move into continuing business. I believe we have a water use billing adjustment request. Do we have a presentation from some people?
We do. So as you guys recall, last month we had presented a water use bill adjustment for Mr. Shuren and Mrs. Shuren. There was an error in the calculation, so we're requesting that you rescind your prior motion of approval. The revised calculations are in your package today, and the leak has now been fixed. But before we move into more detail, Mr. Ed Hogan, who's with us, he'll provide a brief demonstration on how a meter works. And also, gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Shuren are here with us today to voice what the requests are.
Mr. and Mrs. Sherman, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So, just a real brief demonstration of this is our water meter. Okay, this assembly is actually what is found in the meter vaults all throughout our system. Okay, this part here is considered to be the yoke. There's really three main portions of this. There's the yoke assembly, there's the actual meter itself, and there's the register. Okay, the register is actually what registers and calculates all the flow. Okay. Within this assembly, we have the backflow prevention device here. We have the shut-off valve in case there's ever, we ever need to discontinue service for whatever reason, or if we have to take the meter out. To take the meter out, there's just the two bolts right here on screws. They lift out. They can be changed within a matter of minutes. Now, the big question is how does a water meter measure the water? Okay. So within this measuring chamber, there is what's considered to be a nutating disc. Okay, the nutating disc is actually what measures the volume of water. Okay, so the question is what is nutate? Nutate is how it measures the water. The water meter itself, where the measuring disc spins, it actually wobbles. So every time it wobbles, that's one count on this register. So I'll pass this around. You can see it does not rotate. It wobbles. So as it wobbles, you have that top pin. And the top of the measuring device, that is what it causes it to rotate. Okay, so that is what actually rotates and measures in water. You can think of it as filling up a Dixie cup and then dumping it out. There's only a certain amount of volume that's going to go in that Dixie cup prior to it being dumped out. Okay, so once that Dixie cup is dumped out, then it registers on the meter. Okay. The registers rarely, I mean, they are mechanical. They do fail. Typically when they fail to zero. Okay, because what happens is either the register goes bad for some electronic reason. Oh, and this is also the remote antenna. This actually fits through is built through the lid. So this is what communicates back to the meter techs or to our gateways. So like I was saying, the meters generally, they do fail, but when they do fail, they fail to zero. Because if something happens to the disc is not going to rotate, so therefore there will be no flow registered on the meter here. This mutating disc is actually from an 1.5 inch meter. This meter here is a 5/8 meter. This is the standard, typical residential meter. We do have some old meters in service, and these are the old meter dials. Since these are still operated by magnets, so with these old meters, the customer could open up the cap here and see the little red triangle spin when there's any flow going through there. With these new meters, electronic meters, everything's all electronic, and you have to have a flashlight to wake that up. So that is really the brief 3-minute presentation on the water meters. If you guys have any questions, I can certainly answer them.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. So there's really no way that thing could break and go into overflow.
No,
reading
because
on the meter, because if that thing ain't spinning, it's not spinning at the top.
there is a screen in here as the flow comes from the public side of the street. So there's no rocks are going to get in there, and even if rocks do get into that mutating disc, that mutating disc is not going to wobble like it's supposed to.
Which don't spin it, which doesn't
Right. So it would not spin, it would not register on the counter here. So, like I said, this is the backflow preventer. We can get into a little bit of that when I do the cross connection a little bit later, but that's it in a nutshell.
Any questions?
Questions?
Sounds pretty well safe. Questions on it? Thank you.
Sharon, did you wanna?
About this, just a general question between it. The original, the one that has the analog dial on it, is there any measuring difference between an analog meter, an analog register, and a digital register?
Oh, sorry, here's all
This one now, this is, I guess, your new setup, to where you have a digital, it's a digital readout on top, is that?
It is.
Okay. The old style, where you have the dial,
Yeah, what do you?
is it the same?
So it works on the same principle.
Same principle.
As this mutating disc rotates,
Mhm.
okay, that post
Mhm.
will spin that dial. On the older style registers,
Mhm.
it will pick up that magnet spinning on the underside here. So that's how that works.
What system did he have in it? He started having a problem.
Lee started with
The older style?
yes, and put on.
And
Yeah,
now
switched
he
to
has
it.
the more current
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you want to voice your formal request, or did you want to give the board any?
I mean, I think you have the paperwork. But basically, the issue happened right after the meter was replaced in November. That's when the water overage went from, I believe, around 8,000, about 30,000 gallons, which comes out to about, did the math, it was about a half gallon a minute that we were losing. We couldn't find a visual issue anywhere between tablets. I actually did some replacements on our toilets because that's what the text suggested.
Right.
Nothing came up. And when I contacted customer service in March to ask, what can be done at this point, they stated that there was nothing that can be done until we bring a plumber out. So we brought a plumber out for the inspection, and the plumber found no issue at our house, but noticed that in his estimation that the meter was running excessively fast with a spigot, an outdoor spigot open. And that's when I contacted, I was working with the tech. He was working with me between texts and phone calls. And that's on the 6th is when he said he found an issue through text, and that was a text that I submitted. So I believe that on the 6th, for his text, that he did find an issue, and that he fixed it on the 6th. And then according to, I believe, your records, on the 20th, my meter got replaced again. So my question is between the water usage between the 6th of when we received the text and the 20th, there should be some type of water usage change. Because according to what the tech said, the tech did something. What he did, I'm not sure. But since that point, my water usage has gone down. And that's what I'm at.
Do we have any idea what the tech did different, or did that period or anything?
I do not know. I do not know. He changed that meter, actually, the register had changed a couple of times, and it was still reading the same, we was getting the same readings. And we had to wait 30 days to get the final read, and that's when we noticed the usage did with that.
But you didn't do any kind of physical
I didn't
change
do-
other than
the
some
only-
toilet?
The only things that I changed were in March. And at that point, towards the end of March, I even installed a smart meter within the house just to monitor what was going on, to see if there were any issues. And I came up to about 1,800 gallons in the week, which comes out to our normal usage pre-November. So that's when I said, hey, is there anything y'all can do? Because I don't see anything on our end. And that's when they said, the customer service said the only thing you can do is bring out a plumber. And that's when we did, and they said that there's nothing wrong within the house. So.
Anybody got any questions? Questions, Jimmy? Well, thank you. We will get to the bottom of it and figure something out to try to get this situation rectified, for sure. Don't feel that you should be the full burden of that bill by any realms.
Yeah.
So we're gonna come to some kind of agreement.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
And I would assume they'll get in contact with you and let you know.
We had two motions to consider today for your approval
Okay.
regarding Mr. Assurance. So we're requesting the board's consideration for options 2 or options 3. Option 2 is to reduce the water usage charges to the tier 2 rates, reducing the November 2025 through May 2026 bills by $256.54. Option 3 is to bill for the average usage charges based on usage from 1 year prior, which would be the usage from November 2024 through November 2025. And with this reduction, it represents a total reduction of $725.92 from Mr. Shern's bill.
I think my 2 cents of opinion, I know I can't vote if you all make unless it's a tie vote, but I'm leaning towards option 3 because he went to the extent of calling a plumber out, paying for a plumber to come out to try to figure out what's going on here, and I think that seems a little fair to base it on what the average usage was before this problem happened.
Can we assume your side, like you didn't have tenants move in or out in between that time frame when you all were living there?
It's been our family of 4.
That's fine, I just.
And no, that's
making
fine.
the window picture.
And I mean, from our end, just looking at our numbers were, our number went up. I believe the average monthly bill was between $280 and $300, and we normally average about $150. So over 5 months, it would be about $750. And then we'd like you all to consider the bill for the plumber. We paid $300 for a diagnostic fee on the house.
And I do have an additional motion just in case you guys are willing to consider it. We don't typically pay for third-party evaluation invoices unless it's verified that it was actually a Metcom leak or issue. But if you would be willing to consider that, I do have a motion here as well for that.
I would say for today, let's talk about the option 3 or whatever and let us dive in with the second piece because that's not something that's normal for us. So I think we need to dig into that in more detail from our side.
I would agree. I'd entertain that motion.
you want to, like, the whole thing read out for option 3 or?
Yeah, option 3.
The customer has indicated that he may wish to appeal the staff's.
Just a motion.
Okay.
Approve the option 3 as detailed.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's called option 2.
Well, it's got option 2 is up here. It's on 256. Yes.
Just move that we accept option number 3.
Hold on 1 second. First of all, we need to do motion 1. We have to rescind our thing from last month. So somebody please do motion 1. That's what we're doing right now. That's what we're doing right now. That's why I told me we need to do motion 1 first to rescind it. So you are correct.
I'll do that. Move that the commission rescind its previous July 23rd, 2026 motion to reduce the water usage charges for January 2026 through May 2026 bills from $5,920.42 to $3,178.96. Reducing the total billing for the identified period from $6,559.67 to $3,818.21, which represents a total billing reduction of $2,741.46.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? So moved. Now I'll entertain a motion for option 3. Ron?
Okay. Move that the commission approve option 3 as detailed in the memorandum to reduce the water usage charges for November 2025 through May 2026. Bills from $1,641.80 to $915.88, which represents a total bill reduction of $725.92.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? So moved.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you all. And we will discuss the other thing for sure.
Thank you.
All righty, moving into new business.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I have 3 items up for your consideration today. They are all informational updates. The first of which is a cross-connection control and backflow prevention program update. Following many backflow incidents that have resulted in serious illnesses and deaths, both the EPA and MDE instituted regulations that require water systems to develop and implement cross-connection control and backflow prevention programs. These backflow prevention programs are designed to eliminate and reduce the threat of backflow of contaminants into the public water system. The cross-connection control and backflow prevention is a containment program. It addresses and lessens these occurrences from the various water service connections based on the risk imposed by the customer's plumbing system. The purpose of the inspection program is to provide initial and periodic site surveys of the commercial water customers to determine the degree of backflow hazard associated with the location. As of June 30th, 2026, there are 799 commercial water accounts that are tracked by the program. Of these, 124 are identified as high hazard accounts. High hazard is defined as the actual threat of contamination that presents itself to the public health and the public water system. These are such things as laboratories, medical facilities, tall buildings, car washes, things like that. There are currently 652 testable backflow prevention assemblies throughout the system. Our contractor, HydroCorp, sends the testing notifications to customers and manages all associated data as required. Over 2,000 site inspections have been completed between June 27, 2011 and June 30th, 2026. The on-site visits include initial inspections, re-inspections, and compliance reviews. There have been 225 program violations since June 27, 2011. Those violations have occurred at 213 facilities. So again, like I talked about this morning or earlier in the meeting, every residential meter does come with a backflow prevention device. This is a non-testable device. They typically have a lifespan of about 10 to 15 years. When they go bad, what we'll do is we can actually replace this whole assembly, or we can replace the individual parts.
How do you know when it goes bad?
How do you know when they go bad?
In the customer's house, they usually hear a whining or a whirring sound or a chattering sound because one of the springs go bad. So if the customer, and believe it or not, a lot of sound does get transferred through the piping. So we usually get calls saying that there's chattering or something going on in the water system. So with that, I'll take any questions.
What, when the contaminants backfill, what kind of different contaminants
So
experience?
what this particular backflow device does is if there is a catastrophic break on the public water side, and let's say the customer has his outside spigot opened up and he's got it coiled up in a bucket of pesticide or something. Potentially what could happen if we didn't have the backflow prevention device there is when we lose pressure on the public side, it can actually form a vacuum and pull that stuff into the public water system. However, since this is a double check valve, once we lose water on the public side, these will automatically close and prevent that contaminant from entering the system.
What type of contaminants have been experienced?
We have not had any contamination issues in our system, but there have been other issues where lawn companies in other municipalities, they've, you see these big tanks on the back of the trailers where they're filling up, various herbicides or fertilizers or things like that. They'll throw the hose in there and let it fill up past the level of the hose. If there's a break or something catastrophic happens on the water side, or they, for whatever reason, maybe close the valves in the wrong sequence, that contaminant can get introduced into the water system. A lot of the home appliances actually already have this sort of protection built into them. Like the ice makers and the refrigerators, they have basically a double check valve in those. So these instances have occurred, but with the state and the EPA implementing these back in 2009, 2005, 2009, or because there's some isolated incidents of backflow or some sort of contamination entering the water system.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the fire hydrant audit and inspection program update. Fire hydrants are one of the most important components of any water distribution system. The primary purpose of the fire hydrant is to assist with firefighting efforts when they occur. Although members of the local fire department operate the hydrants, it is the commission's responsibility to maintain and ensure that the publicly owned units are in proper working order. Currently, there are approximately 2,844 fire hydrants. These are both publicly and privately owned throughout the county that the commission oversees. The goal is to have no greater than 3% of the total inventory of hydrants out of service at any one time. As of the fiscal year 2026 inspection audit, there are 29 hydrants, and that's about a little over 1.10% that are currently designated as out of service. So we are certainly below that 3% threshold. The inspection program includes ensuring that each hydrant is free of obstructions, is in proper working order, and is adequately painted. The inspection also includes lubricating threads, replacing caps, replacing any leaky gaskets, and conducting a flow test to determine both the water available for firefighting and the general condition of the distribution systems. The hydrants are painted different. They're all one color, but they do have different colored bands around them. That is indicating the amount of water, fire, or the flow that's available at that hydrant. As of fiscal year 2026, the contractor audited and tested 486 hydrants, flow tested 239, and painted 500 hydrants. We've also worked with the Sheriff's Department and have developed an informal partnership as of June of last year for approximately about 80 deputies when they are on patrol to randomly spot check contractors who are withdrawing water from the public fire hydrants. This is considered theft. We did have an instance earlier this year where a contractor was withdrawing water from a hydrant. He did not have a water meter, and he was subsequently fined, and that a fine, I think, amounted in a little over $3,000 for all the lost water and the fines. So with that, I'll take any questions.
What causes these 29 hydrants to be out of service?
Some of them are in new areas. Some of them, some are parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like they're just defected and you're not fixing them.
Right, and although we don't operate the privately owned hydrants, we do oversee those. So hydrants that are in shopping centers, although we don't maintain them, we will send a letter to the owner, and if they don't fix it in a reasonable amount of time, we'll go in there, go ahead and fix it and build them.
Do we have any type of sensors that know when their hydrants have been opened?
On some of the smaller system, we can tell by the system pressure, but in a system as large as Lexington Park, unless there's a major fire, we won't notice anything within the system.
Any other questions, Bill? Thank you.
Okay, last item is a PFAS and PFOA sampling program update. PFAS and PFOA are part of a larger group of chemicals called per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances.
Just stick
Say that fast.
I won't say it again. Because of their unique ability to repel oil and water, these products have been used in various household products. As a result, they are widely distributed and are found in soil, air, and groundwater at sites across the United States. The toxicity, mobility, and bioaccumulation potential of PFAS and PFOA results in possible adverse health effects on the environment and for human health. So there's two fronts that we're testing this on. The first is the water side. So under the Safe Drinking Water Act and those related regulations, the EPA has created legally enforceable maximum contaminant levels for all PFAS compounds. METCOM must complete initial PFAS monitoring of our water systems by 2027. And beginning in April of 2029, METCOM must comply with all regulated PFAS and other MCL violations. So if we have any PFAS in our public water systems, April 2029 is the deadline for that. However, we voluntarily began sampling for PFAS in 2021 at Breton Bay, Cedar Cove, Charlotte Hall, Country Lakes, and the Lexington Park and Southgate water systems. All of those samples were verified as non-detect, meaning that there was no detectable PFAS or PFOA compounds in those water supplies. METCOM is also currently testing all water systems as required based on the regulatory requirements. Again, to date, all samples have shown levels of PFAS or also non-detect at all 28 water systems. Furthermore, we have voluntarily participated in additional sampling that analyzed the water prior to any treatment and passing through our water stations. So what MDE requires is they require the raw water to be tested that comes out of the aquifer. Okay, that's MDE's requirement. So we tested that. MDE did not want to see the results once it's been treated. Okay. We voluntarily started testing on the treated side. Now, granted, we don't treat it a whole lot. We basically chlorinate it, but we did have some concerns because in the Teflon tape and some of the Teflon, the pipe dope that's used, there are PFAS, PFOA compounds in those items. So we were concerned to see if any would pass through. All of those samples were also non-detect. So at all the water stations, they were also non-detect. All of our water in this area, in this county that we supply, does come from the aquifers. So there is no outside sources that could possibly contaminate those aquifers unless there is a direct open well where something contaminates the well directly or the aquifer directly. So again, all samples, all regulatory samples are non-detect, and all post-treated samples were also non-detect. So that's on the water side. On the wastewater side, multiple activities still result in PFAS being released to the wastewater treatment plants. These activities include industrial releases, commercial releases such as car washes, laundromats, things like that, and also down the drain releases from homes. Customer products such as water-resistant sprays, things like that, floor finishes, water-resistant textiles, and with the various water-repelling coatings. So those are also introduced on the domestic side. NDE requires wastewater treatment plants that generate biosolids for land application to sample and report all PFAS, PFOA compounds based on the amount of sludge produced. So effective October 1st, 2028, sewage sludge with a total PFAS or PFOA concentrations equal to or exceeding 50 parts per billion cannot be applied to land. Anything over between 20 and 25 parts per billion and 50 parts per billion may only be land applied under specific NDE approved mitigation efforts. All of METCOM's wastewater treatment facilities biosolids have been tested for various PFAS compounds. These results so far have been far below the threshold set by NDE and EPA. All 8 plants, roughly it's 0.008 parts per billion. A lot of the other compounds have been non-detect. I would certainly give a big shout out to Pax River. I think when they were still utilizing the AFFF, our numbers were fairly high at Marley Taylor. Once they phased out those compounds, our numbers dropped significantly. And again, the Marley Taylor facility, those are far below the threshold there. So on the water side, we're very good, non-detect on both the raw and the treated side, and we're also far below the thresholds for the wastewater side. So we'll continue to test and meet any new requirements or testing regulations that have to do with PFAS compounds.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Sounds like on the job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next thing is a cybersecurity assessment report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I come before you today to give an annual report on our cybersecurity posture. Metcon cybersecurity remains strong. We have had no virus or malware infections, no successful cyber intrusions or breaches to our IT or OT networks, no detected ransomware or successful ransomware infections, and we've only had one minor but successful phishing attempt, which I'll explain later. METCOM actively utilizes the assessment services offered by the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, specifically the Cyber Hygiene Vulnerability Service and Web Application Scanning. These services provide our IT staff with timely alerts and actionable remediation strategies to mitigate security vulnerabilities. Included in your materials is an example of our cyber hygiene report card. I chose an example this time to reflect the vulnerabilities found on our public-facing web server. In this case, there was one high security severity vulnerability and 2 medium severities, all related to a recently discovered weakness in older Cipher protocols, some which were being used on our web server. As mentioned, the scanning services from CISA not only detect, but also offer ways to mitigate the vulnerabilities. In this case, by disabling these outdated technologies and only allowing the most recent protocols. And just an FYI, the subsequent scans or report card after this returns 0 vulnerabilities. So we get immediate feedback that these vulnerabilities were indeed taken care of and mitigated. The cybersecurity posture of METCOM's IT and OT network remains strong. You may have heard of recent news reports that suggest Iranian state-sponsored hackers are attacking U.S. critical infrastructure and more specifically water and wastewater facilities. At least 7 states have been affected. with some reports saying as many as 12 states have been compromised. There have been no confirmed cases of drinking water contamination, though. So the short answer is yes. Water and wastewater facilities are being targeted by foreign adversaries. However, this is nothing new. The current cyber attacks are exploiting internet-facing programmable logic controllers, or PLCs, and other devices on the network, which the default passwords have not been configured or changed. Metcom's network are segregated and protected by next-gen firewalls. This means they are not connected directly to the internet. And all passwords, of course, are changed immediately upon hardware deployment. IT and OT networks are further segregated from one another with internally located firewalls. Now, this is not to say that Metcom is infallible to cyber attacks. As I mentioned earlier, we did have one minor but successful phishing attempt in which a user submitted their username and password in an email that was falsely reporting that their account credentials had expired. I'm pretty sure you've all seen these emails come in. This particular one came in on a weekend. The user saw it, the urgency that these phishing attempts have. Your credentials has expired, you must change your password. Well, of course, what's the first thing you do when you have to change your password? You have to verify that you know the old password. Right. So that's what this phishing attempt was attempting to do. The user, realizing immediately their error, picked the phone up and called me. It was Sunday afternoon. And IT jumped quickly to disable the user's account, and we changed their password. We also, using an endpoint isolation feature from our endpoint detection and response software, we were able to lock down this user's laptop remotely. So there was no more access being given if that device was compromised. Turns out that device was not compromised. Simply, he gave the credentials through the email to the hackers. The attacker was able to view some of the account's email messages, and with this information, they were able to further their social engineering tactics, this time focusing their efforts on our banks. As mentioned in previous reports, though, Metcom utilizes a defense-in-depth approach to cybersecurity, and attempts by the attackers to communicate with our financial institutions were immediately declined because they did not know the proper channels that we had previously set up, and they did not know the safe words that we had with our financial institutions. So following this incident, Metcom's IT staff leveraged the event as a learning opportunity to emphasize the prompt reporting of suspicious emails. Metcom has since deployed a cybersecurity awareness training program utilizing KnowBe4's industry standard training platform. Metcom's security awareness program routinely delivers targeted training modules and phishing emails to our users. This deliberately tests and measures the employee's vulnerability to social engineering. The training completion and phishing simulation metrics are compiled over time to show the organization's maturity and risk levels. This, along with automated training recommendations, helps IT focus our efforts on the topics needed and to those staff who are vulnerable to these attacks. A screenshot of our current KnowBe4 dashboard is attached, showing our overall risk has decreased roughly 25% since our trainings began in February 2026. And as you can see, our risk score is low. And if you look at the graph, we are trending in the right direction. I can personally say our users are very, very good at picking out these phishing attempts, and they are quick to pick the phone up to say, I received something today that I don't think is right. So the training is working. In October 2025, the Maryland legislature passed Senate Bill 871, the Community Water and Sewage System Cybersecurity Planning and Assessment Bill. This bill requires MDE to strengthen cybersecurity for community water and sewerage systems. In the spring of 2026, MDE issued a compliance checklist guidance documentation to support community water and sewage systems in implementing this SB 871. Metcom performed the mandated cybersecurity maturity assessments using the tool provided by MDE. All required documents, including a revised cybersecurity incident response plan, were submitted by the July 1st deadline. Future cybersecurity initiatives for the upcoming year include the continued use of the Security Awareness Training Program, migration of on-premise public-facing systems to cloud-based alternatives, and utilizing our AI detection and response platform to monitor AI usage on Metcom systems. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
I assume that some in-house training was taking care of the phishing attempts.
It truly is working, and the graph shows. And the KnowBe4 system allows us to tailor our phishing campaigns, is what they're called, by sending out a variety of phishing attempts, covering banking, covering your accounts, HR. Sometimes we can send out phishing attempts that appears to come from inside. Sometimes spoofing the HR's email to say, hey, we have this new program at Metcom, please sign up, put your username and password here. So they run the gamut, and they're really, they go across the board as to the types of phishing attempts that we see.
Is there any avenues of assistance for you to chase who the fishers are?
So in this particular case where the attack was successful, there's plenty of logs. We were able to go into Office 365, see all the logs. I could immediately see that the attacks were coming from New Jersey. Not a whole lot we could do about it, but we know which pieces of the communication were the attackers and which was legitimate communication. And then, of course, once we locked the account down, any attempts we could verify were coming from
Yeah, I
outside.
didn't know if there was a broader, say, Maryland group that you could go to that's
Yeah, we are required to report these types of things within an hour. This particular incident was reported to the Security Operations Center for the Multi-State ISAC. ISAC is Information Sharing and Analysis Center. We shared all of the data regarding the times, the methods used in the phishing attempt, as well as the methods used for us to stop it and slow the attack, and any information that was breached. Because they only, I hate to say only, but because they only exploited the Office 365 email, they never got into our internal systems at all. And according to the MDSOC, they felt as though we took the appropriate measures in locking things down and stopping further attacks in the future. So, yeah, as a precaution, we did change our safe words with all the banks, and we even changed the account numbers.
But are they feeding back information to other people from an awareness side and vice versa?
Yes, members of the MS ISAC receive weekly reports based on other exploits seen across the state. Well, in this case, multi-states. Because there's a MS ISAC, which is multi-states. There's a Maryland ISAC, and then there's a water ISAC, actually.
And when you have to do stuff like your firmware updates and stuff, do you have a program where they're set up differently, like you first take them off a line and do the update and then put them back and again because somebody might have gotten into the firmware stuff information? Or?
Typically, the firmware updates are going to be automatic. As they come out, they get installed. We've recently had some vulnerabilities in our network reporting and documentation software. They actually sent out the fix without telling anyone what the problem was because they wanted the fix out before the attackers had a chance to find the vulnerability. So yeah, I mean, most of these things are automatic. Our endpoint detection and response gives us daily scans for vulnerabilities and any firmware updates. So we know immediately when something's out of date.
Once you identify it and you lock it down, what you described was changing all your usernames, passwords, account numbers, and so forth. But is there a way to go backwards and destroy it? Delete it? Exit out or something like that?
In this particular case, our main fight against these things is to block the IP addresses. There's not a whole lot we can do once they have that. Changing the password, changing the account name, changing those things stops them from going any further. There is no pulling back of the information that they've received, of course, but the information they received could have been a banking account number, which we have changed. So that banking account number is null and void now.
But there's no way to actually destroy them.
No, I have reported them to their ISP. That was the great thing about the logs. I was able to track it back to New Jersey and a particular ISP. So I was able to go to their internet service provider, is what ISP is. I was able to go to their internet service provider and say, you have someone on your network that has sent us phishing scams, and of course they're doing it to other people as well. So we just kind of send that information to them and hope the ISP does something about it.
So that would be a rogue person in their organization.
Yes, yeah.
And they have to do something about it.
Have to? Probably
well,
not.
if they want to.
If they want to, yes, if they want to. But it's no different than you having a paid subscription to BreezeLine or Comcast or any of the internet service providers here. They're not going to stop you from doing what you want to do on the internet until it becomes a problem. Then, if someone complains, they can block you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Easy stuff. You heard a lot of voluntary testing. That's always scary when you do things ahead of the requirement. But given the fact that PFOS and PFOA have a lot of health consequences and they're in the news, we decided to do a lot of that voluntary testing. And then recall during the FY27 budget, we talked about the implications of finding PFOS in our sludge. If we couldn't land apply the sludge, we'd have to landfill it. And that would cost us about between $600,000 and $700,000 in the operating budget. So that was another reason why we started that voluntary testing, because that's a big impact to our operating budget. So kudos to all of our folks, and we're glad we have a system that doesn't have that in it. Corporate treasurer is the next item on the agenda. Today, you have an informational memorandum in your package. I believe it's dated August 17th. The short version of the memorandum is that the commission bylaws require the board to designate a corporate treasurer, and the St. Mary's County Code requires that a bond be approved by the county attorney and accepted by the commissioners of St. Mary's County. Those bonds specifically name the individual, and they're at $250,000 currently based on FDIC recommendations. Due to the departure of our CFO and not a lot of transitionary time between his departure and the person you see in front of you today, we need to designate an interim treasurer. Right now, the commission is in a position where we can designate a treasurer, but we don't have one bonded. Bonding is just a protection. It really doesn't change that much of our current operations, but we need to have one in place. As is customary with past practice, typically the director becomes the corporate treasurer. As a general rule, the CFO manages that position because all the roles and responsibilities are exactly the same. There should be two questions in the forefront of your mind, and if not, I'll put them there for you. The first one is, what do we do about this lapse? We can have more than one person bonded, so what we're going to do is look at perhaps the CFO and deputy CFO to both be bonded. The carrying costs, our deputy CFO is looking into. By the way, she is now our acting CFO. So thank you very much. She's doing a great job. We are looking at what the carrying costs are. It typically costs between $850 to $1,000 for a $250,000 bond. If that's all it is, it's well worth having two bonds in place and two designees. So when one is lost, we have somebody to step right in. So we'll look at that. The other thing that Mr. Beaver and I are doing, you'll see this in September, we're proposing some legislative changes to make the corporate designation process a little bit easier. It's a little bit ridiculous that we have to bounce back and forth between this board and the county. I think as long as they receive a bond that's acceptable to their county attorney, there shouldn't be another additional step involved that will help expedite. We've already talked with the county and they're in agreement with that, so we'll get support of that legislation. So we're going to narrow that interim non-designated and unbonded person, but we're also going to look at having two people bonded so we can alleviate that altogether. So with that having been said, there's a motion in your package, and I believe it's to designate myself in the interim. The idea there is once we select a new CFO and the CFO completes their 6 months, that we will then designate the CFO as the permanent corporate treasurer. Oh, we don't have a motion?
There is no motion.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be then. We'll have a corporate bond that we're going to produce to the county for them to review, and we're going to go through that process. So sorry about that. This is more of an informative presentation than a motion presentation. So we will follow what we typically have done in the past. I was the interim before Sean, and then we'll just revert to that again. Just wanted to keep you aware of where we're at, and if you had any questions,
What
go ahead and
will
pose
be
those.
the process for replacement
Of
of the gentleman that left?
the CFO is advertised as we speak. We have at least 8 more. 4? Yeah. We have 8 total with the other positions that are open maybe, but we've got 4 positions, 4 people who have expressed an interest so far in the CFO position. So it's being advertised as we speak.
And is there a close time for that or the procedure?
Minimum requirement is 14 calendar days, but we can leave it open until filled if we so choose. But the minimum requirement is 14 days. And it's been not quite 14. And we'll have a recommendation for you at the September meeting on filling that position or convening a panel.
I'm gonna have somebody execute this.
And
It's
then
not in your packet.
you and staff will, George, you and staff will conduct interviews or a process to make a selection or recommended selection?
We'll get into that with the next topic. As a general rule, the bylaws require that two board members be selected to sit on an interview panel for all department heads. We're not at that stage with that yet. We are at that stage with the HR director, which is the next item of business. So the process will be better explained with the next agenda item.
Any further
But it's
questions?
somewhere.
Any more questions? We do have a motion.
Yep. I'll make that motion. I move that the commission appoint George Erickson as the interim corporate treasurer of the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission until a new chief financial officer has been selected and has successfully fulfilled the 6 months probationary period in accordance with section 4.2.3 of the corporate bylaws of the St. Mary's County Metropolitan Commission. Further move that the staff be authorized to forward the public official bond in the amount of $250,000 to be issued to George Erickson as the duly appointed corporate treasurer to the commissioners of the St. Mary's County for review and approval in accordance with section 113-1.e of the public local laws of St. Mary's County.
So we have a motion.
I'll second it.
I have a second. Any further discussion on that motion? Can we trust him? All those in favor?
Only in
Aye. Aye. Any nays?
We'll trust him for a couple months.
So moved. You're very welcome. I move right along to appointment of board members.
Oh, yes, sir. You have a detailed informational memorandum in your packages. I believe it's dated August 5th. As Commissioner Polisi interjected just a few moments ago, there is a process. In short, the bylaws require that an interview panel for department heads be comprised of at least 2 board members unless they elect not to participate in the panel. This exception is not extended to the director position. In no case can you have less than 2 people on an interview panel, and you have to participate. In accordance with the bylaws, something else is also required, and that's the Human Resources Director, which is actually the Chief Human Resources Officer, but I keep using the old term HR Director, so forgive me if I keep using that term. But the HR Director typically will recommend 2 board members for the interview panel. However, when it's the HR Director's position, the HR Director is relieved of that responsibility and it reverts to the Director. The Director then has to make that recommendation. So the short version of today's presentation is I have a suggestion that we select Mr. Gould, Mr. Dugan, and Mr. Anas. Why 3 as opposed to 2? We've had experiences in the past where there's been either an illness, a sickness, or a work-related piece of travel that has reduced the required 2 number down to 1. So the idea here is to select 3, to have 3 participate, but this allows for an alternate in case an unexpected absenteeism occurs. So one of them is intended to be an alternate, but the motion is for 3 people to participate in the panel. So that's why it's 3 instead of 2. There are 2 motions in your package. You can elect not to participate in the panel for a department head. That typically is not something that is done, and I would urge the board not to make that motion, although it's your call. The second is a motion to approve the panel members from the board as recommended by the director. You also have a third option, and that is to talk amongst yourselves if one of the 3 recommended does not want to participate and wants to pass that off, that responsibility off to one of the other board members. Or if you have 3 alternatives stand up. There's no disrespect to Mr. Polisi or Mr. Mattingly. It's just a selection and a recommendation was made.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Would you like to be on it?
Mr. Gould is ready to hand that over.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure that everybody's afforded the opportunity to be on it if they were so choose to be on it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I mean, I don't have a problem with recommendations, but I would like to open it up to the rest of them if somebody would like to be on that. Other than what he stated, I don't have a problem with.
Yeah, I think as stated is fine.
Kind of figured that.
Tag, you're it.
Somebody read the motion. Unless there's any questions or more comments, somebody feel free to read the motion.
I'll make a motion. Move that the board approve the interview and selection panel for the Chief Human Resources Officer position as presented and recommended by the Executive Director in accordance with Article 4, Section 6.2.1 of the corporate bylaws.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, so moved.
And as far as availability, we will work with your schedules. So I know Mr. Anas was looking at his calendar earlier, and we'll make sure we coordinate with all 3 of you to make sure we can get all 3 of you there if we can.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Alrighty, moving on. I think we're into future agenda items. The next tentative meeting is September 24th of 2026. I'm sure Laura will do a great job of sending out the information a week prior or so. If there's any changes, to make sure that everybody can make that meeting. We have enough for a board forum. We'll move into commissioners' members' time. Anybody got anything? The commissioner's side? We need to approve the executive meeting minutes from the July 23rd, 2026 session.
I guess recess, shut the camera off, just a brief recess.
Want to turn it back on? Again, I'll entertain that motion.
I move to approve the July 23, 2026 executive session meeting minutes as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? So moved.
And for clarification, is that Commissioner Hafner or do they second that?
That's kind of a combination.
Is that like a tag team?
Pick your favorite.
Any last by other ways? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.